People power growth, but recruiting and onboarding are expensive, exhausting, and absolutely overwhelming. I've been there, and it doesn't have to be this way. Welcome to Hire and Empower. I'm your host, Molly McGrath. Join me as we interview leaders who care about their teams and distill powerful lessons from them. This show is sponsored by H&E, helping organizations to find their best hire and empower them for success. Learn more at hiringandempowering.com. All right, friends, we're back again. Another Tuesday podcast, and we're sitting here on the precipice of the new year, new you, blah, 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 that we are all getting hammered every which way to Sunday between paid ads on social channels, people's social feeds. I'm seeing all these all these attorneys writing, if you do this and you can cut down on all the ads that are coming into your social feed. We're all getting hammered. And email marketing, ads, what have you. So where do we anchor to? Do we pay attention to? And I'm excited because I am here with a very, very special guest. And I can tell you a little bit about our history and our backstory, what have you. But Lori Pulvermacher, practice advisor for Atticus. If any of you have heard me speak on my previous podcast, you have heard me speak about Steve Riley, my very, very first coach. You've heard me speak about Mark Powers and Sean Powers of Atticus and Rainmakers. And when we started that program many moons ago, when I remember Mark called me and he said, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Let's throw it out there. The world needs it." And it was a massive, massive success. Many of you have been through Atticus programs. This is a household name in the legal industry. And I feel so incredibly honored to have Lori here today. And today we're going to be having a conversation that I know is tried, tested, and proven. We're going to talk about creating a law firm roadmap that breaks through your barriers in 3 strategic steps. So Lori, you and I have been around the block for 20 some years together. You've been involved with council, elder council, now Atticus, and wow, your rap sheet, your CV is quite impressive. You are definitely a legal leader leading legal leaders.
Well, I appreciate that, Molly. We have been around a little bit, right? And our paths have crossed at different points over the years. So it's wonderful to join you here today and have a discussion that I think is one that will be impactful and one that will support our shared audience.
Yes. And before we started recording, we were talking about, by and large, you and I both have had the complete honor of serving estate planning and elder law firms. And now Atticus, they serve all different areas of law. Right prior to the pandemic, my phone started ringing off the hook with the recruiting side and the staffing side of our business, with all different areas of law, PI, criminal defense, what have you. So it's really fun to see. But at the end of the day, and we talked about this before we started recording, a business owner is a business owner, and an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur. Now, how we bill, how we have our legal structure, the services that we provide to the client and to the community, yes, there's differences there. How we do what we do, definitely difference. But at the end of the day, what is waking us all up at 2 o'clock in the morning? No different, right?
Absolutely. No, it's universal. And I shared with you that I had the opportunity to work for a consulting firm before joining Atticus as well. And so truly working with organizations outside of the legal space. And again, just reiterates just what you said. These are universal business challenges that we need business skills and business acumen to be able to master those and to overcome some of the barriers that we've either self-imposed or the growth of our organization has imposed on us.
Yes. And, I love the tagline behind you that you have. For those of you that are not watching on YouTube with us, helping lawyers grow great practices and cultivate great lives. That is the slogan for Atticus. Great practice, great life. And I know firsthand they have over-delivered on that promise. You are on the phone all day long, or Zoom rooms or what have you, consulting and working with law firm owners, correct?
Absolutely. And so as part of that tagline, I think it's really important to recognize that not everyone has the same definition for what that means, right? The cliche of the work-life balance, for some, it's a cliche. We love the idea of life work or work-life balance here at Atticus, but we want to be very cognizant that this is based on your definition. And for some attorneys, it is, reaching for the moon and the stars and not stopping anything short of that. And for others, it's just more quality time doing the things they love or doing things that they want to do with those that they love. And so, but again, it all boils down to the fundamentals. We've got to have really strong business processes in place that allow us to realize the vision that has been set as to what type of business, what type of practice they want. And really their practice should be supporting their great life.
Yes. And I love that you say that. I recorded a podcast yesterday titled, "Is Your Definition of Success Money in the Size of Your Firm?" And to your point, I have a client that on Friday, they have consistently more than doubled their revenue year after year after year. When I started working with them, they have 5 employees. Now they have 32. Now they have 4 offices. But the attorney's working 7 days a week.
Yeah.
He is at his wits' ends. He feels like people are consistently delegating back up to him. And I'm like, we need the power of the pause. And I know you're going to talk about this today. And for our listeners, hang with us, because today we are talking about the Double Your Revenue workshop, which is near and dear to my heart, that I have virtually every client that I've worked with in the estate planning and elder law space has attended this workshop, if not once, multiple times, bringing their team back, et cetera. So Lori's going to share with us today kind of the 3-step strategy that she's working unwaveringly with her clients right now at this time, because it is the beginning of the year. We all have this blank white page and everything's like, yay, hopefully you had some room for a celebration of what you've accomplished in the prior year. And then now we're sitting here and we have fresh books, we have fresh calendars, we have fresh everything, and everything's looking like unicorns and roses. And we have budgets to invest in coaching and growth and people and process and production and all these things. But I love your process here, Lori, that you're talking about. And I'd love for you to share with us really the first piece of this on the reflecting that I personally see so many entrepreneurs just hop over and gloss over.
Yeah, the reflection piece is big, really. When we think about where we want to go, it's hard before we stop and go, where am I today? And where have I been? And what has worked and what hasn't, right? And so we have to go through this reflection period to really be able to glean those insights. And this is often the stuff that we skip over because it's soft. I don't have time for it. It's not important, or I have too many other important things to do than to sit and contemplate. Right. And for some of the attorneys that we work with, this is that time where, the new year is the new fresh start. Certainly, again, the cliches and what we've been getting hammered over the head with, as you've said earlier. But this doesn't have to be a January 1st initiative. This can be in August. This can be any time that you're listening to this podcast. So don't think that this has to align with year end or new year. At any point, it is time well spent for you to give reflection to your practice and to your business. And again, putting that effort in. I think it's Brian Tracy that says that 10 minutes of planning saves an hour in execution, right? So just think if we compound that and we spend some real time getting contemplation and putting the effort towards identifying the elements that are going to make an effective plan, we're going to be that much further ahead. And this encompasses, goal setting and vision development. So many of the business owners that we work with, Molly, are just, in the throes of day to day. I use the analogy of the whitewater rafting expedition. We jump in the raft and we're just trying to maneuver through the rapids and through the boulders and hanging on for your dear life. most days, right? And just feeling drained. And we get off that raft thinking, wow, that was quite a ride. And we wake up the next day and we do it over again. And so the idea is to have that time and reflection to say, where am I going to aim this raft? How am I going to most effectively maneuver? How am I going to avoid, the collisions before they happen?
And what I love about DYR, double your revenue, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a quarter at a time, a quarter in a chunk. Is that accurate?
Right. So the idea, again, whether it's identifying a roadmap, goal setting, there's a lot of interchangeable terms that we could apply to this. But what some of the challenges are for most people inherently is that we have a hard time looking too far out. Most of us are comfortable in the here and now, and it's hard for us to go, I don't know where I or my business is going to be in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I don't know even what my exit strategy looks like. That's just too far down the road for me to even give any thought about that, right? And so we want to make sure that we're looking at a vision for the business, but we got to chunk it up. We got to say, what can I do over the next 90 days and then the next 90 days? And so it's putting one foot in front of the other and really identifying these are the measurable action items that I can take. And these are the specific things that I can do that are going to have impact to move me closer to that vision.
I love that because during the pandemic, I heard this definition of resentment. And the definition is resentment. When you're feeling resentment, that's when you have self-abandonment. And so many attorneys, I hear they resent their practice. They pull in the parking lot in or proverbial Zoom room and have to meet with, they're like, I don't even want to meet with my team. I don't want to be in any more meetings. They have piles of files that they have to review and they feel like they own a job. And we've all heard that you own working in your business, on your business. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I love that definition because when you talk about vision, so maybe that's too woo-woo for somebody listening to this, or soft, as you say. All right, let's flip it. And here's another way to say it. If you're feeling resentment somewhere in your practice, look at where you may be abandoning yourself as a visionary, where you are abandoning yourself because you're not able to network, you're not able to work on marketing. You have absolutely no white space in your calendar to work on your future self, to work on, my coaching group that my coaches that I belong to, we call it future pulling. And so sometimes visioning doesn't work for other people, but where you are actively investing in your future self. So maybe visioning feels too woo-woo for you if you're listening to this. Where are you feeling resentment? Maybe that's where you need to have the power of the pause. That's where you need to have the reflection and come at it from that angle and puke it out of everything that you are feeling like you're resenting because you're not given what you were promised when you hung your own shingle. What is everything that we all wanted? Freedom, financial freedom, energetic freedom, emotional freedom, time freedom, spiritual freedom, freedom to go to our kids' baseball game or concert at 4:00 on a Tuesday, all those things. And if those aren't occurring for you, I love this one first step that you have in regards to really reflecting.
Yeah. The resentment piece, I think, is something that they can relate to. So I love that you've, given that alternative viewpoint, if you would, because, I've worked with attorneys who resent their team, right? They resent their team,
yeah.
and so that should be a big flag that says this is the area that I need to address within my business. Absolutely.
And, I say that for myself too, because for a long time, I really struggled with visioning. I'm like, I don't have time for that bullshit. Like right now, I am so in the trenches. I have so much coming at me. Like I couldn't even give myself the space or grace for that because I was so focused on all the heavy and hard stuff coming at me. And my coach kind of flipped it that way. And she was like, okay, great. Then look at what are you resenting, because that's what's stopping you from really truly even thinking about your future self and communicating that with your team, etc. So that's number one, guys. That's the first step. And I think, Lori, I love that you're bringing this today, because I think a lot of what we're seeing out there, especially this time of year, or quite honestly, anything around goal setting, it's always about strategy and execution, strategy and execution. And it just hit me. Like, I think this is the biggest missing piece. Like, my book right now that's at the publisher that's coming out is called Fix My Employees. And I have a whole chapter in there on the power of the pause.
Yeah.
Because I think it is so, especially in the business world, especially in the legal world. Like, no, the second that you stop moving, I saw that Steve did on Instagram a whole reel about, attorneys hanging their pride on they're so busy and important. And he's always said that. And I always say, the second that you're not busy, you're out of business. So you're always going to be in motion and in action to some degree, but also the power of the pause and stillness is still actively participating in your future self. And I think it's the most important part of that.
Well, I think
Really,
it's important to realize too that maybe sometimes we have to change our definition of what busy is, and not hang our hat that it equivocates success or importance, right? The science is there, the research is there that supports the fact that when we pause, when we do idle activity, when we allow ourselves to not be stimulated, we are more creative. We connect the dots more clearly, and we come up with our greatest ideas, but we also just give a moment to charge. And so this doesn't need to be, hours in a given day. This is short reflection opportunities. This is short, time to just walk away from the desk. I often tell people I have some of the greatest ideas or put the thoughts together while, you get dressed, you fold the laundry, you take a shower. You're doing things where you're not in front of your phone or in front of your computer screen. And we all need that. And so one of the best things that you can do for your business is step away from it in short little increments and work to lengthen that time. It'll be time for you to recharge, because there is a diminishing return on productivity, but a diminishing return on your satisfaction, quite frankly, when you fall into resentment for your own business.
absolutely. There's no secret that all these gurus and very successful human beings, whether athletes or business owners or what have you, adopt to the, morning miracle.
Right.
And I always say this on my podcast, I solve all my world problems. Anyone who knows me and listens to my podcast, I get up every single morning and walk 3.5 miles and do a sunrise walk with my dog, and no phone, no technology. And I solve every problem in the world, either there or on my yoga mat.
Right.
Like, it's so necessary. That is still activation.
Absolutely.
It's just not white knuckling strategy. It's just not white knuckling your process and your people. So I love that you start off with that. Now let's talk about the evaluate piece.
Yeah, and so this flows into that reflection really naturally, because we have to be able to first identify the components and reflect on how the year, how the quarter, how the business tenure in general has gone up to this point, and then evaluate in greater specificity, really, again, what worked. What is working really well in my practice that I want to continue doing or improve upon, right? And what's not working? Where do I have that resentment? Where am I beating my head against the wall? Where am I, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results? Where are those types of experiences and moments happening in my practice? Those are the what's not working piece, right? And so we also have to answer the why. Oftentimes we'll address the what, but that's not solution oriented, right? So we can say, well, this isn't working, okay, but why, right? And so when we go through that process, then we learn some lessons that we otherwise wouldn't have, because it's real easy to have the blinders and lack objectivity when we just look for the what. So again, look for the why. Why is this not working? And for some attorneys, it's maybe holding up the mirror a little bit, and it makes it uncomfortable, because it might be a gap in their knowledge or their understanding. It might be a leadership issue with the team. It might be a communication issue. So sometimes this evaluation is really uncomfortable because we, attorneys want to be just great attorneys and be able to have a business that reflects what a great attorney they are. They hung the shingle like you spoke about, but didn't really anticipate the multitude of different roles and
Yes.
responsibilities and business skills, quite frankly, that are required to do this. So it's one thing to be an attorney and a technician practicing the law. It's quite another to be a business owner leading a law firm. And when you hire team members, you become a manager and a supervisor and a coach. And those roles are not inherent and comfortable for most of us. And so again, we've got to go through this evaluation period and really ask ourselves the hard questions. And then when we go through that, then we can say, okay, now how do I improve upon this? How do I amplify what's working? How can I scale that? How can I nurture that so it keeps doing what it's doing? And then how do I improve upon what's not working, or what I need to let go of, or where I need to learn, so that I can get to that next barrier. All too often I hear from attorneys, it's like, it's year after year, it feels the same. Maybe I had an incremental increase in revenue, but it's just because it was more work, more hours, more stress, whatever it was. So again, how do you, really find ways to improve so that you don't have that Groundhog Day, kind of feeling year after year?
I've always loved this exercise, and I love the what's not working. This is what I would offer to most attorneys are highly, highly analytical, and their only measuring stick is data. Their
Right.
only measuring stick is numbers. Guys, this is not an exercise when you ask yourself what's not working, where you're pulling out your strategic roadmap, your calendar, and your P&L. This is coming from your heart.
Mhm.
This is coming, I always tell my clients, you're responsible for the energy you bring in the room and the energy you leave in the room. So the only measuring stick in business is particularly in law is time and money, but we're not measuring our energy. We're not measuring how we're feeling and how we're showing up in the world. Again, that resentment piece. So when you're asking yourself really, truly, what's not working, I want you to not just make it about the data and the business. Well, I didn't grow my business, X percent that I anticipated, what have you. No, maybe your highest revenue generator right now is work that you absolutely hate,
Mhm.
and it's sucking the life out of you and causing you to have very high overhead, and you don't have the capacity or the ability to train all these people. You don't even want all these people. That might not be your definition of success, of bigger, better, more people, what have you. So really getting clear again on that vision. That's why I think that reflecting piece is so critical. And I love that you do that first, because when you're looking at your future self, when you're looking at your future practice, when you're looking at your vision and doing that reflecting piece, make sure you're paying attention to even you as the human being.
Yes.
Like, yeah, we made all this money. Yes, we got all these great clients. Yes, everybody on social media will coin us as a thought leader, influencer, what have you. But at the end of the day, my marriage is in the toilet. At the end of the day, my kids are pissed off at me because I never show up for them, or when I am there, I'm not even present. Like, you can physically feel the stress pumping through my body. Like, I'm leaving that energy in the room. So attorneys, especially my high analytics, don't just use your measuring stick based on your P&L and your data that you have. It's also you as a human being. I always say, first, we have to remember we're human beings first and foremost, and secondly, human doings.
Right.
And so I love that part of adding the reflecting and the visioning first, and then coming back to this part of really taking stock to that when it comes time for the evaluation.
Yeah, it does need to be a holistic consideration. And when we work with our attorneys and we work on, whether it's the 90-day focuser or the Migrate Life exercise that we do with our attorneys, that encompasses work and life, right? You can't have a great practice and a great life without having a great life and a great practice. And so again, that practice has to support that great life. And if you're only looking at through the context of your firm and your business, you're missing a big aspect and component to really developing, that clear understanding of what's working and what's not.
I love that. When you go through the what's working, what's not working, have Lori's voice in your head about my great life. I love the name of that. It's just bringing that in together. Okay, let's talk about plan.
All right. So the planning piece should be fun, and it should be, at this point, you've got some of that vision that is hard to acquire until we go through the reflection and we go through the evaluation. And so now we can kind of start to bring the picture together a little bit and plan for it. If this is what I want in my life, how can I develop that? How can I ensure that that happens? What can I do to set myself up for success in that aspect? If I know something's not working, how can I fix it, right? And again, developing the plan for that. But what I really think is important too is, and again, this is maybe a shortcut for some of those that have a hard time either adopting vision or being visionary, is just what do you want to be celebrating at this time next year? Right? Or if you got to even pull it back a little bit, what do you want to celebrate in 90 days? What do you want to celebrate at this time next year? What do you want to celebrate in 3 years? Thinking of it as a celebration of what you want to accomplish and what you want to achieve, and how you're going to define and measure done success, so that you can put that check mark next to the box that this has been done, or that needle has moved all the way over. For me, it's fun to think of it in that context. At this time next year, I want to be celebrating the fact that I did this, I did that, I did this, right? And be able to have that kind of as something to look forward to. I think it's really important because, again, for a lot of us, going through this planning process is uncomfortable. It forces us to stretch ourselves a little bit, and we lose the motivation and the excitement that really should be part of the process. And so once we understand what we want to be celebrating, then we can get more focused on what it is that we need to do to get there. Right? What are the roadblocks I need to remove? What are the additional resources I need to have? How do I leverage the resources or the technologies that I have? How do I involve my family, my spouse more into this planning so that this is a more holistic approach? How do I spend more time playing sports or participating in my community? Again, there's so many different ways that we can be fed. We look a lot of the time as from family perspective and from the work perspective. But again, there's a multitude of different areas of our life that we could be addressing through this exercise. But then that focus becomes the prioritization. If we can kind of get to this near visualization component of this plan, it makes it a lot more easy for us to be focused and us to take day by day, week by week, and month by month, therefore quarter by quarter, to get there. We've got the marching orders, if you would. We know that these are the most important things that I need to prioritize in a given day and a given month, and it stays kind of ever, top of mind for me. If we let it get buried and we don't go through creating the action items, we're not gonna see it, right? We've all done the New Year's resolutions. We've all created goals, and goals without an action plan are just a dream or a hope. They're not, you've got to put yourself, I would say, you got to trick yourself. Like I find ways to trick myself all the time because we're creatures of habit. And oftentimes when we develop plans like this, we are pushing ourselves outside of our habitual nature, which is going to create some internal and external turmoil that our bodies, our minds are going to say, no, don't do that. Just do what you were doing. It was just fine. It's not broke. Don't fix it. Right? We can convince ourselves that it's too much effort, that it's just easier to do what we were doing because habit is so strong. And so, we need to put in the checks and balances, and time management is a big piece of this, right? We talk about this with attorneys. Again, this is one of those soft skills, but something that is so essential and one of the most important and vital business skills that business owners need to have for success. And that is to be able to have protected time on their calendar to move the needle forward on the objectives that they have placed for themselves. This is the on the business versus in the business. We get
Mm.
really, tied up in the day-to-day, head down on the desk, forget to come up for air, forget to look out on the horizon and see where we're at. We need something in our calendar system, something in our prioritization system that says, hey, stop, look at this. Where are we at with this? Let's come back to this, so that we don't lose it. So it's really, really important to have those mechanisms in place and a sense of accountability to achieve those goals as well.
In my understanding and my experience is really where the rubber meets the road with what Atticus provides, because we can all attend a webinar, attend a conference, attend an event in regards to planning. And to your point, habits, consistency, time chunking, time management, focus, intentionality, seeing the horizon, all that. But we all know that, really truly, when you have somebody that's going to serve as an accountability coach, as a safety net to keep doing the needle moving work with you and reminding you and keeping you anchored to this plan that you set, and I love it, you said kind of trick yourself. I always call it like gamify it. You know what you need to do. And there are things on that plan that your part, whether it be you as the attorney, we have a lot of team members that listen to this that are heavily involved in the execution and the vision. And we all have those things that make us uncomfortable, the things that we keep procrastinating on or putting off or what have you, but we fully, wholly know that that is the next right move we need to make, the next right uncomfortable move. And, one of my favorite sayings is from the movie We Bought a Zoo, where Matt Damon says, all it takes is 20 seconds of insane courage.
Mhm.
And I constantly tell my clients that, like, get through the first 20 seconds of doing that video, doing that webinar, picking up the phone and calling your referral source, whatever it is that is something you may or may not have done before. But the accountability piece, Lori, because I always tell people there's no shortage of strategy and planning. You can Google search perfect, marketing plan for a lawyer, and you're going to get 7,000 hits on Google, and you can download them, right? And you can download them and you can tweak them and you can admire them and all that. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that accountability
Mhm.
and that partner that's going to lock arms with you,
Right.
even when you're shaking in your boots, even when you don't want to, that's why the health industry, the difference between me who joins 24-hour fitness or me who joins 24-hour fitness and I have a monthly retainer for $1,000 a month for a personal coach that I have to show up at 5 a.m. We all know the studies. I'm showing up even when I don't want to.
Mhm. Yeah.
So talk to us about like what Atticus does, because I don't know that we necessarily covered that to support people with these 3-step strategy.
Certainly, and I just want to piggyback off something you said, because it's something that I share with my clients usually when I'm just beginning a new engagement with an attorney. And that's one, kudos to them for embarking upon a journey and recognizing that it isn't easy to go alone, and they need support and they need accountability and they need advice and insights often times as well. And but at the end of the day, I can serve in my capacity. I can provide that accountability. I can guide them, but the real heavy lifting, is on the attorney, is on the business owner. And so, yes, it's easier with that support mechanism, but it doesn't replace the need to make some real significant changes in their business and or their life. And so, unfortunately, that's what happens all too often is I'll download that template, I'll Google this, I'll have a template for it, I'll have a shortcut to whatever it is I need. But without the commitment and the follow through to the implementation of that and going through those moments of uncomfortability, you're going right back to square one over and over again. And the frustration that you're going to experience is that it doesn't matter what I do, nothing works. right?
Yes.
And so we really have to give it a go, and we really have to, again, be objective and hold ourselves accountable. And so at Atticus, we love the opportunity to partner with attorneys. We only work with attorneys. It doesn't matter which particular legal space, but attorneys and their teams and their firms, specifically in the area of growing their practice and developing their definition of great practice, great life. And so we do that through coaching and advising, certainly in one-on-one capacity, but we also have group programs that we do that in. Some people really thrive off the peer environment or really need to start with step one and then graduate and go through the multitude of different strategies and methodologies that we have here at Atticus to build upon the foundation. And so the group programs offer that that opportunity. And for those that need a more tailored approach or really are trying to triage certain areas within their practice, that's where someone like myself and others come in and do that in a one-on-one capacity. But we also have workshops and webinars. We love just putting out information to help attorneys. We know that not everyone is designed to be our client, just like our attorneys should know that not everyone is designed to be their clients. But we want to support this industry. We're very passionate about supporting attorneys. I love to say that in my role, I love supporting great practitioners in becoming really great business professionals, because as we talked about, there's a difference between being an attorney and being a business owner. And so one of the workshops that we wanted to highlight today, Molly, was the Double Your Revenue workshop. This is a great introduction to the Atticus world and the methodologies and the processes in which we utilize to support our attorneys. It's a one-day workshop, and you're going to come in and really immerse yourself in this reflect, evaluate, and plan process. And you're going to walk away with your roadmap. You're going to understand some of the glaring issues. You're going to have a much better understanding of your numbers and your firm economics for many attorneys for the first time since opening their door and hanging their shingle, and being able to use that data and that understanding to, again, develop that roadmap and have something to walk away with. So some individuals come to the workshop and they walk away and they're going, all right, these are the things I'm going to change. And so we have so many, wonderful testimonials and so many really amazing success stories of individuals who have more than doubled their revenue or doubled their revenue again and again. And again, I just want to emphasize, for some, doubling their revenue is this scary thing. Like, if I double my revenue, that means I'm going to double my stress, I'm going to double my number of clients I'm going to work with, number of hours I have to work. Everything else doubles, my overhead doubles. And so we're really also presenting strategies to identify where you can become more efficient, where you can leverage resources, and what things you can do, because it doesn't have to be a one-for-one consideration, because that isn't anybody's definition of great life or great practice.
Yeah, my understanding of the multiple times I sat through that workshop, and I have many, many clients, to your point, that have doubled over, but not for the sake of just doubling the revenue. To your point, we're very clear, like, consistently, all right, what's that going to do to your stress? What's that's going to, so you help them get really clear on what's working, what's not working, and support them with that before they get to the plate of execution and implementation and declaration of what they're up to for the next quarter, year, what have you. Something came to me, two questions. One, is this an appropriate workshop for team members to attend with their attorney or no?
So we have had team members attend with their attorney. Oftentimes, again, it's the attorneys coming in and they're kind of getting introduced to some of these considerations and concepts for the very first time, and then they'll re-attend, where they'll attend with associates or with their partners, right? So you've got everybody on the same page and speaking a common language. It's really important, and we see this often in many of our other programs, where eventually we say, bring your team members with you to these so that they can hear this also, because the biggest hurdle is the attorney coming to a program like this and being really energized and full of ideas and excited for maybe the first time in a long time about the future, only to go back to their team and say, we're going to do these amazing things. And our team's going to go, no, we're not. No, do you know how much that work going to be for me, that'll never work, because they weren't part of it. They don't have the buy-in, and so it is really eye-opening, and it demonstrates to the team that you value them and you make this investment in them also. So there's going to be tremendous value with or without, but I just want to share in that vein that it is so important that if you do have a team, they understand the why behind what you're trying to accomplish, and who is this Atticus group, and why do you do this, and because otherwise they just look at you as the person that's just going to add more to their plate that they already see as overfilling, rather than the person who's trying to leverage these tactics to give them more time in their day as well and make them more productive.
Yes. So when is the next workshop, Lori?
We have 2 in February. So depending on where you're located, you may have a preference. We have one on February 16th, and that'll be in Houston, Texas. And then we have one on the 17th of February, and that's in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, great. All right. No excuses.
Southern. Warm.
Okay, great. Tell our listeners how they can find you and connect with Atticus and hear more and learn more.
We're on all the channels. Certainly our website is atticusadvantage.com. And we also have a podcast Steve Riley just launched. And so we're excited to be bringing content to folks on that platform now. But we've got all of our workshops and our information we post on our website, and that goes out to our social media channels also, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. And I'm sure we'll be taking over more as they continue to roll out. But those are the primary platforms you can find us on.
Okay, great. For our folks who are on desktop, on laptop, we're going to put all the channels in the show notes, so you'll have them there. You will have the registration for how to grab your seat for Double Your Revenue. I cannot recommend this one-day workshop enough for everybody. I don't care if you're new to the coaching world. I don't care if you feel like you have it all figured out, or maybe you're shaking in your boots and you're a newbie and you've never been exposed to this. This workshop is truly for everyone. What you walk out with and the exercise to getting to your place's strategic roadmap is priceless in itself. So I cannot say enough about this workshop. I'm sure you have limited seats, so please go to the website and grab your seat now and get there. No excuses. You have Florida and you have Texas. So
both are warm, and as long as the airlines stay open, we'll be in good shape. But I will say to the newbies, your future self will thank you for this, right? And we often hear from the seasoned attorney, I wish I would have done this or been introduced to something like this years ago, or when I first started.
Years ago. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, Lori, thank you. Thank you for all you do to serve the legal community. I feel so completely honored to have you here as my guest, and the extraordinary practice advisor that you are. Thank you for all the work that you and the Atticus team do for the legal field. It absolutely makes my job so much easier with training the support team. So I am deeply grateful for you getting the entrepreneurial attorneys in a place of really looking at their business as a business and seeing their team as an integral part of their path and plan.
Oh, well, my pleasure. Certainly, it's an honor, as you know, to work with these professionals, and yes, we have some fun along the way.
Yes, absolutely. All right, all the goodies are in the show notes, folks. Until then, continue being a legal leader, leading legal leaders, and we will see you next Tuesday. We've reached the end of another impactful conversation on the Hire and Empower podcast. Whether this was your first episode or you're a longtime listener, I know you can tell I have passion for people. Whether you're a business owner, employee, executive, or hiring manager, I understand the situation you're in. Hiring, onboarding, and leadership is expensive, exhausting, overwhelming, and if that's not enough, it's also time-consuming. My friends, it doesn't have to be this way. There's a team at H&E that has your back. For over 25 years, they've transformed over 4,000 law firms into efficient, effective, profitable assets for their business and made it fun to come to work again. Check out our Smart Hire solution, our employee leadership program, and the 66-day law firm turnaround at hiringandempowering.com.